morning and welcome to another show of the Health Zone. I'm Mihal and I'll be with you for the next hour. Check out and like our Facebook page on www.facebook.com/The Health Zone Show. Well, this week we're talking all about sexual health and healthy relationships. We'll be talking with sex columnist Roe McDermott about what women wish men knew about sex and how you could add some more fun and spark into your relationship. We'll also be chatting with Polarity Therapist Fabio Moretta about why women experience sexual health problems and what they can do about them. Lastly, Tantric sex, relationship and orgasm coach and sexologist Andrew Barnes will be telling us how to create a more intimate and honest relationship with our partners and how to know if you're in a co-dependent relationship or not and what you can do about it. But before all of that, let's listen to the one and only James Brown with I Got You.
If you've an injury from sports, work or life in general, at Cork Sports Injury Clinic, we've a range of treatments to help relieve your pain. Not all injuries are related to sports, but the treatment for many of life's aches and pains are the same. Just some of our treatments include deep tissue massage, dry needling, spinal adjustment, cupping and ultrasounds. To find out how Cork Sports Injury Clinic can help you, contact us on 087 74 27 654 or check out our website at www.corksic.ie. Cork Sports Injury Clinic, providing quality treatment that will have you back in the game.
Welcome back to the Health Zone. Well, that was I Got You with James Brown. Check out and like our Facebook page on www.facebook.com facebook.com/The Health Zone Show to stay updated on all things health related. Well, on this week's show, we're chatting with Roe McDermott, who is a journalist and sex columnist for Hot Press and Dublin Inquirer. She's also a Fulbright awardee studying sexuality studies in San Francisco State University. She's telling us about how to have a more enjoyable sex, how to know if you're with the right partner, and also how to keep the spark alive in your relationship. What is deemed as good sex, Ro?
Well, good sex is rather subjective for a lot of people because everyone has their own tips and tricks, which they seem to. But generally, for everybody, I think Dan Savage is an amazing sex columnist out in the States, and he's come up with a formula that I think is effective, and it's being GGG, which he comes to mean is good, giving, and game. So he means good, so you've mastered hopefully a few skills, so you're not making any very clumsy mistakes, that you're giving, that you're generous, and you want to be able to please your partner, and you're not selfish in bed. And game means you're kind of up for trying new things and for keeping your sex life exciting and finding new ways of pleasing both yourself and your partner, because I think it's really important that people don't often focus on their own pleasure. And if you don't know what you enjoy, you can't tell your partner. Open communication and honesty is the biggest thing that leads to good sex, because if you're able to express what you want and why you want it, sometimes your partner is able to work with that and understand your desires a bit more. But I also think there needs to be a focus on both people's pleasure. I think women in particular are socialized not to focus on what they enjoy in bed, and not to focus on making sure that they're getting it. So I think for women in particular, it's really important to be able to express to their partner what they want, how they can get there. And so communication is a big thing. And so in that theme of open communication, you have to be willing to be vulnerable. I think there can often be a bit of shame and a bit of embarrassment and a lack of desire to tell people what you're desiring, because you're feared you might be judged, because you're shy, because you're not incredibly comfortable talking about sex. And I think that open communication is really key, and that sense of opening yourself up to being vulnerable as well, that's going to create more emotional intimacy with your partner, which can only serve to make things better.
Great, Ro. And Elizabeth, like, what do you think stops us from say actually having like good sex or enjoyable sex?
I think it's a lack of honesty, which affects a lot of people, and that lack of honesty and that ability to talk about what you want, and very basically a lack of awareness about our own bodies. And particularly, I have to say, this tends to be a problem for women, but women tend not to be given the vernacular to describe what they want and what makes them feel good. And so that lack of desire to be able to express that openly can really stop a partner, because you're not able to express yourself and say what you want, or even know what you want at a very basic level. Your partner can't be expected to be telepathic. So I think self-exploration is really important for people, and then communicating that with your partner, that ability to communicate openly. I also think there can be a lack of attention to what your partner is reacting to. I think people get stuck in a routine of this works, so they'll do this all the time. So they stop exploring other ways of making each other feel good. And I think as well, once couples start having sex, they can often stop doing the little things that they did before they were having sex that get each other turned on. So whether that comes from seduction or whether that comes from kind of physical foreplay and focusing on different erogenous zones, I think it's really important not to just focus on purely we can have sex now, so that's all we're going to do. I think the foreplay is really important, and I mean that both emotionally and physically.
And Ro, we often hear, but what do women wish men knew actually about sex?
Oh God, let's write a book. I think women wish that men knew. We are socialized as women not to talk about sex and not to seem incredibly enthusiastic about sex, and we're socialized not to ask what we want. And to do that and to be a sexually confident woman and to be sexually empowered, it actually takes a good bit of personal work a lot of the time, because you're receiving all these messages from society that are telling you that you should be sexualized, not very sexual. And so it can often be a vulnerable thing for a woman to say, well, first of all, I enjoy sex. here's why I enjoy it, because it's often seen as aggressive. So I think men really need to be attuned to that, and then be really appreciative when women can openly express what they want. I also think there is that aspect that women have a lot of erogenous zones, and there's a great phrase that men are like microwaves and women are like slow cookers, and so women might take a little more time to get turned on, and there are certain things that we need to feel comfortable and we need to feel safe in order for the sex to physically be better. So I think men have to never neglect foreplay, and again I mean that emotionally and physically, and focus on the little things that get women there. So whether that's kind of kissing and physical foreplay and focusing not just on man pleasure and penetrative sex and focusing on all the things that come before that, I think that's really important. Women also need to feel sexy, and I think in a different way to men can feel affected by outside stress, and that can really hurt their libido. And then particularly if sex is demanded in that state, it can become or feel a bit like a chore or something that's, you know, an added stressor. So I think it's really important never to use sex as something to do, and this is for men and women really, but I think it's particularly important that a lot of pressure is placed on women, because generally men can have their view, and it's never sex until that is that has to be done in a relationship, and to really pay attention to what women are enjoying in bed, because women can often give off a lot of very subtle and unsubtle physical cues that something is working or not working that men might want to pay attention to.
Great. And, you know, I suppose, what do men wish women knew about sex?
I think men are this idea of, because I think a huge barrier in a lot of relationships is women not being able to ask for what they want. Men really want to know what makes their partner feel good, and it makes them feel good to be able to give that. And bless men, we always talk about, you know, them being, you know, more and sexual aggression. Men are also sensitive little bunnies, right? And so it's really important for them to feel like they've been able to please their partner, and to do that they want to know, and they really want women to tell them what they want. I also think there's a few things. Men are quite visual. We have to go with the stereotype. So a bit of seduction never ever goes awry when it comes to bringing a bit of spice back to a relationship, and seducing your man and putting a bit of effort in. I think that also applies to a lot of men like to indulge in a bit of pornography and a bit of adult film, and I think most men would be very adamant that this has nothing to do with their relationship and their partner shouldn't take it seriously. It's a sexual aid, it's not a sexual threat, and I think a lot of women can take pornography a bit seriously, because men are a lot more enthusiastic with it than most women. But on the other hand, men should also know that there are feminist pornography sites, and a lot of porn that's produced, there's ethically produced porn that might make women feel a lot more comfortable. I also think men want women to know that they want women to initiate sex a lot of the time, particularly in a long-term relationship. If the man is left to initiate sex, it means that he's also leaving himself open to rejection a lot, and in long-term relationship that can build. So it's really important for men not to feel like they're begging for sex or constantly initiating, and that their partner also desires them. So I think it's really important for women to take that aboard and initiate sex and make their man feel desired, and not just like he's always the one desiring.
Great, Ro. And, like, you know, would you have any suggestions, say, for a man or woman who may have low libido?
Yeah, I think the thing about low libido is it's only a problem if it's a problem. Some people have a naturally low libido, and if you can work around that, that's fine. But I also think that we sometimes don't take low libidos seriously enough, because low libidos can be the effect of things. They can be a side effect of illness, they can be a side effect of medication, and I think unlike most side effects people experience, we're not as comfortable turning to our doctor and saying, I'm experiencing this, too, so can we work around this? And I think that's really important, because with any other side effects, if you were losing sleep, if you were losing appetite, if anything else was happening to you due to an illness or a medication, brings the attention to it. And I think a low libido is the exact same. If it's affecting life, there are things that you can do. So I think if it's a medical issue or anything physical, absolutely bring it up to your doctor, and don't be embarrassed to say that, and don't be embarrassed to say, actually, having a higher sex drive is very important to my life and my well-being, so I want to work with this, because there are medications or maybe changing medications, and that will absolutely help. But like I said, if you're fine with this, that's great. It's only an issue if it causes problems in the relationship, and that really comes from one being a lower libido than the other. But I think not worrying about it is very important. If everyone in the relationship is feeling satisfied and feeling appreciated. So don't problematize things that aren't necessarily a problem, but if they are, just be aware of the effect it might be having.
Like, how could a couple put, say, more passion or excitement into sex and to their lovemaking?
I think passion and excitement, people need to also be realistic in long-term relationships. Some of the passion and some of the excitement can wane. But like I said, it's like being with a low libido. It's not something you necessarily have to accept. So I think it's about focusing on what gets you both excited. And trying new things, I think, is really important. There's a great challenge. I think challenge is the wrong word because it feels like it's incredibly difficult. Whereas this seems like an excellent piece of, basically, where couples who want to reignite their passion, they commit to something, to a routine. A lot of people commit to having sex every day for a month, and in that every day they try something new, and whether that's something big, so a sexual act that they haven't tried before, or something small, whether it's bringing a blindfold into the bedroom or bringing an ice cube into the bedroom and getting creative with. I think trying something a little bit new, it makes it feel exciting, and it makes people feel excited about it, even if it's just a tiny little change. It gets them thinking about their sex life. If you're focused on, if you have kind of a routine in place, it gets you thinking about it, and it gets you thinking about it in a kind of more productive way, rather than oh yeah, sure, we might have sex tonight. It's that, no, this is going to happen, and what can we do to inject a bit of romance? So it means that people go off and they look up things that they haven't tried before. And I think that idea of coming together in a way where sex isn't a chore, it isn't something that's been waited on, but it's something that you know is going to happen. And I think there's something very innately exciting about that because it gets people thinking about it. And I think also there's something very sexy and very exciting about sitting down and just talking about what you've wanted. So if you commit to going through your bucket list of sexual activities and seeing what you have and haven't done and what you would like to do with your partner is really important, because again, it puts you into kind of a sexual mind frame, and it also gets you thinking about what you're going to do in order to sustain a relationship and what new things you'd like to try.
Say if a person is in a relationship and say both partners have a different sex drive and say even different expectations, like what could you do in that situation?
Yeah, I think that can be a problem. And like I said, if there's something medical or something physical that's causing someone to have a low, I think people should be aware of that and go and see if there's anything that they're medical aids that are not intrusive at all, and so people should be aware of that. But I think again, that idea of libido, it can often put the other person in a very vulnerable position because they're constantly trying to initiate sex or asking for sex and getting rejected, and that can be emotionally very difficult. And of course, for the partner with the low libido, it's also not helpful to feel like there's any pressure or any sex. So I think it's about coming up with a compromise, and routines are actually proving good, and it sounds like you're turning sex into a bit of homework, but don't think of it that way. It's play work, because you are coming together to do something fun and intimate, and that will strengthen your relationship. But having a routine around sex, it also means that this is off that pressure is off for someone to initiate, for someone to say yes or no with whatever it is, if it's having sex once a week, twice a week. That you get into that routine and you stick to that routine. So it means that both partners are feeling a bit more confident because that idea of being rejected or being is taken away. And also, I think it's important to remember that if you have a low sex drive, you can be sexual without having sex. And I think that can take the pressure off for a lot of people. If there's a pressure to kind of perform and to achieve orgasm or give an orgasm, but you can be sexual with your partner. You can do sexy things. You can be naked around each other. You can touch each other. You can kiss each other. And I think taking the pressure off having full sex can also relieve a lot of the mental stress that goes with it. So focus on being sexy and sexual together rather than having sex, but also have a routine so it doesn't go too long, which will turn it into.
Finally, like what is the secret, say, to a long, happy and healthy relationship?
The secret to a long, healthy, and happy relationship. If I could do that, I would be an absolute millionaire.
Yeah, exactly.
What's really important in most relationships, all relationships, is being respectful of each other and being honest. And I also think it's really important to have kind of realistic expectations of what it takes to have a healthy, committed relationship. That initial spark and the initial fun and excitement of initial romance can fade, and it turns into something much deeper. But it can turn into something where people feel so comfortable that they can often turn complacent. And I think relationships themselves can get old, but expressing how you appreciate someone and what excites you about being with them never should get old. People need to feel appreciated and invigorated, and effort needs to be made, and effort isn't necessarily work, but it's about appreciating each other. It's about always being honest. I think it is about trying to keep things fresh, whether that's in the bedroom or the bedroom. So it's not about, so routines can be incredibly helpful when it comes to being have sex, but I think too much routine in a relationship, it takes kind of a bit of the spark out of it. So being spontaneous with each other, taking time to get to know each other on different levels, and communicating openly and honestly, and letting people know what you want is really, really simple too. So I think partners should be honest with each other, and really listen and appreciate each other as well.
That's great, Ro. Look, unfortunately, we're after running out of time, but thanks so much for chatting with us this morning. I really enjoyed it. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Well, bye-bye. Well, that was sex columnist Roe McDermott talking all about sexual health and healthy relationships. Very interesting indeed. Don't go away, because up next we're talking with Polarity Therapist Fabio Moretta about why people experience sexual problems and what they can do about them. But before all of that, let's listen to Sex Bomb with the one and only Tom
Victoria Cross Cycles is one of Ireland's leading bike shops with over 25 years' experience in business. All our staff are keen cyclists with extensive knowledge in road, mountain and cycle-to-work bikes and are there to help with all your cycling needs. We have a wide range in road bikes, hybrid bikes, mountain bikes and also stock a wide clothing and accessories collection. We have a workshop for repairs, so if you have a problem, we'll fix it. Please drop in your bike to us and we'll repair it with our expert knowledge and training. Why not get involved in the Cycle to Work scheme? Buy a bike and save up to 50% on tax. Victoria Cross Cycles. Find us on Facebook or visit vccycles.com.
Welcome back to the Health Zone. Well, that was the one and only Tom Jones with Sex Bomb. Check out and like our Facebook page on www.facebook.com/The Health Zone Show. A podcast of this week's show will be uploaded later on today on www.mixcloud.com/The Health Zone. Well, today we're talking with Polarity Therapist Fabio Moretta all about why people experience sexual problems and what they can do about them. Good morning, Fabio.
Good morning. Thanks for inviting me.
You're very welcome. So tell me, Fabio, what do you do?
My job is to move energy in people's body because energy has a tendency to get stuck. And when it gets stuck, we experience health problems. So people need to have an eye on moving their energy. And when it gets stuck, they need to see a specialist. So that's my job.
Great. And how come you got into this type of work?
It's vocational. It's kind of the period of my life I had this strong calling, and I felt panic attacks and anxiety in staying in my old path. So it's kind of I had to move in this direction, and I felt a gift, a special sensitivity in feeling people's energy and actually having then a technique to move that energy and making them happy and healthy again.
Can you tell me a bit more about people having problems with sexual energy, Fabio?
Yes, all the time. So we have to consider that sexual energy is 30 to 40% of our body energy. So it's a big fraction of it. So it's very easy to get that energy out of balance because maybe in some periods we are overworked, or sometimes we are worried about other things in our life, or we are studying too hard. And when we deny that energy, obviously it gets all over the place. And when we don't express it, it has to find means of expressions that are different. And sometimes those means are contracting organs or creating strange sexual deviations. So it's very important to keep that energy balanced. And it's very easy in this busy lifestyle we all have to get out of balance with that form of energy. Absolutely.
Great. And what do you do with a person, say, who has a problem with their sexual energy?
So my job is to investigate the lifestyle and if this person is allowing himself or herself to express his or her emotions. So many times we feel maybe sorry for having some thoughts, or we feel that we shouldn't think in a certain way, and we feel that maybe it's more important to do our homeworks or being a good student or being a good professional, and the sexual urge is denied. So when that happens, the body doesn't like too much, and obviously sexual energy can accumulate, being over-accumulated in the genital area, or sometimes it can be used for other things like creativity. So if I get a rush of creativity and express that, that's good. But if for the sake of being serious, of being ultra professional, I don't allow myself periods of playing or being creative, that's something that gets the energy stuck. So my job physically is to use my hands and push that energy all over the body in order to invite the circulation of this energy. So it's really a physical work, sometimes with light touch, sometimes with no touch at all. So it's possible to push the aura for pushing the sexual energy, or literally putting my fingers on the body very, very gently is allowing the flow to start again.
Why do people have problems with their sexual energy, Fabio?
They do because it's a lifestyle problem. So it's not possible, as it was before, maybe for our grandparents, to have a relaxed pace of life that was in tune with our body. So we are constantly pressing our own emotion, we are pressed about time, we are pressed about expectations. So we put our mind in our body, and so with the mind we try to control the body, and that's something that is not natural. The body doesn't like that. The body is not designed to be controlled 24 hours a day by the mind. The body has its own intelligence, its own wisdom. So we have to respect that, and we have to respect the natural flow of energy. And whenever we are on the way with a strong belief or with a certain behavior that we impose to ourselves, energy gets stuck. And that's where problem starts. So it's inevitable that sexual energy is involved in pretty everything that people feel as pain. So many times I have people coming with a simple back pain, but if we go a little bit deeper, sexual energy is involved. It's always in the way, and every symptoms many times is just the tip of the iceberg, and below there is a sexual issue.
Are there any other, say, factors which could contribute to a person's blocked energy?
Yeah, beliefs sometimes, sense of guilt, sense of shame, or the fact that, this is not the right time, or the fact that I have to. Sometimes we even feel pushed in the opposite way. So I have to have so much sex in my life because everybody does. So it's a matter of not being tuned in the body, not being tuned with our emotions and our genital area. And when that happens, we go extremes very easily. So periods of exaggerations and periods of starvation.
I know you've been living here for about 10 years at this stage.
Yes, that's right.
But
yeah.
I know, you think Ireland is more sexually suppressed than, say, other countries, Fabio?
Yes, on a way it's very visible because if you go out on a Saturday night, it's incredible the amount of freedom you see on a Saturday night. People, they go around half naked, and that's not happening in other countries so explicitly on a Saturday night. And then you see exactly the opposite during the working days and working hours. People are trying to get very, very serious, and they try to suppress that creative part. So it's kind of like people live on extreme. And I believe that the religion, culture has played a major role in suppressing that energy. And, it's not the same in all the countries in the world. There are countries like Brazil or France, without going too far, that they allow that freer expression of sexual energy. It's normal to express it. So in those countries, we don't experience those extremes. Absolutely. So there is a major role of suppression that I can see in Ireland. Absolutely.
What's the solution to that?
The solution is to stop expecting instructions from outside. Stop expecting instructions from books or gurus or people that pretend to have every solution about that, and to retrain gently our body in feeling those emotions, feeling the connection with ourselves, be really genuine and honest with what we feel inside, and rely on that. And obviously for people that have been denied those emotions for years, it will take a little bit. So it's not possible to think that for years of denial, with a few weeks or few months, we'll be recuperating all that connection and that ability to feel all the emotions and the finer sensations. But, with practice, everything is possible. So we need to retrain our mind and our body to feel again, and not be ashamed to feel sensitive, to feel some very pleasurable emotions that, society doesn't considers a weakness for a person.
If someone came to you, like what would happen, Fabio?
It happens that we have a general conversation. Usually we keep the conversation very safe, and we stay around the physical pain or sometimes the sexual discomfort. And my job is not to dig verbally inside the issues, because as soon as I go verbally in that area, the person might feel intruded. So my skill is to actually listen what the client is not saying, listen the energy that is portraying and the emotion that is portraying whenever is telling me about the pain, the trauma, the discomfort, and then to act with my hands and moving the energy that I feel is stuck with the air in which I find is stuck. So it's very a safe process for the client, because it doesn't feel intruded psychologically, and it's totally up to my intuition to act on the areas that they need most of the help. So it's a really intuitive work.
Sounds very, very interesting. And I suppose finally, Fabio, if a person wanted to contact you, how could they do it?
Very easily. So our website, that is www.wisdomwithin.ie, and my phone number is 087 1456323.
That's great, Fabio. Look, thanks so much for coming in today.
Thank you again for inviting me.
You're very welcome.
It was a pleasure.
You're welcome. Thank you very much, and the best luck with everything.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So, if anyone wants to find out more about Fabio's work, you can log on to www.wisdomwithin.ie or call 087 145 6323. That's 087 145 6323. Well, stay tuned, because up next we'll be talking with Tantric sex, relationship and orgasm coach and sexologist Andrew Barnes, all about how to create more intimate and honest relationships with our partners, and also how to know if you're in a codependent relationship or not, and what to do about it. But before all of that, let's listen to I'm Too Sexy with the one and only Right Said Fred.
Adventures offer the widest range of outdoor adventure activities in Munster. We have the activity for you or your group with adventures on both land and water. Kayaking, surfing, archery, hill walking, rock climbing, abseiling and stand-up paddleboarding are just some of the activities on offer. Only 15 minutes from Cork, we cater for individual or group bookings. Find us on Facebook or for a full list of adventure activities, check out ardmoreadventures.ie. Life's an adventure, so let's live it.
welcome back to the Health Zone. Check out and like our Facebook page on www.facebook.com/The Health Zone Show. A podcast of this week's show will be uploaded to www.mixcloud.com/The Health Zone, and that will be on later on today. Well, recently I was talking with Tantric sex, relationship and orgasm coach and sexologist Andrew Barnes about creating more authentic relationships with our partners. He was also telling me about how to know if you're in a co-dependent relationship or not and what to do about it. Here's a short section of the interview, and the rest can be listened to on the podcast. The interview is over an hour long, so I hope you enjoyed this little excerpt there. So Andrew, I was at your talk last night and you talked about de-armoring. Can you explain a bit more about that?
Yeah, the tantric body de-armoring is something I've been developing for the last 15, 16, 17 years. And it's a type of body work that support people to release blockages. Now, I often get asked, what are blockages? And I also hear a lot of people talking about blockages. And so it's good to define that from the start of this conversation, I think. And I define a blockage as a combination of an emotional stress and a physical tension. You know, something happens in our lives and we have an emotional reaction to that, which automatically creates stress in our physical body. And those two stresses, the emotional and physical, become very intimately connected to each other. Now, if we don't express the feelings while they're happening in the moment, very often what happens is we suppress the feelings. And that means that we don't release the tension either. And so this becomes what I call a holding pattern. And tantric body de-armoring is designed to release the holding patterns that lower our vibrational frequency and keep us held in past emotional states. So in a bodywork session, we may press on different points and different muscles of the body, and that helps to also trigger and release the emotional energy that's been suppressed. And so it's really more designed to support people that have sexual stress or sexual issues, because a lot of other modalities tend to stay away from sexuality and support people in other really amazing ways of healing. So tantric body de-armoring tends to start where other modalities end, because it goes into releasing stress around sexual issues.
So we're all looking for a deeper and more loving relationship in our lives, but is this a way to kind of move towards that?
I think we need to incorporate the body, our emotional body and our energetic body in our healing and also in our relationships and in our daily lives. Very often a lot of people become very physically focused or very emotionally focused, but they're not incorporating all levels of consciousness. And if we want to be in a loving, caring, intimate, open, honest relationship that's really vulnerable and authentic, we need to be acknowledging all levels of consciousness within ourselves and with our partners. Now, one of the ways that makes that very difficult in many societies is that we're confusing the concepts of being a female and a male with being a man and a woman, and then associating that with either being feminine or masculine. And what I mean by this is, when I use the term female or male, what I'm actually talking about is what body type you have. You're a male because you have a penis, and a female is a female because she has the clitoris. And that's it. There's nothing to do with long hair or short hair or dolls and trucks or pink and blue. That relates to being a man or a woman, which is the gender roles that have been socially constructed in many societies. Now, the gender role of woman says, stereotypical things like they like pink and high heel shoes and makeup, and they love to dance, and they're overly emotional. And, a lot of the countries that I go to, one of the gender roles of women is that they have sexual problems, they have body image problems. Some of the stereotypical things about being a man is, that we're strong and confident and aggressive and dominating and logical, and all of these types of things. We like blue, not pink. The problem with this is that a lot of people are confusing being a man or a woman with being a female or a male. We actually believe nowadays that being a man or a woman is some kind of genetic thing. that little boys are genetically drawn to blue and little girls are genetically drawn to pink. When, in actual fact, prior to the 1900s, pink was considered a very male colour. It was a strong, passionate colour for men, and blue was considered a very delicate and dainty colour for women. That's why when you see statues of Mother Mary, she's wearing blue, because it was a female colour. So then, to add on top of this confusion of being a man or a woman with being a female or a male, we then associate femininity with women and masculinity with men. And this is what I consider to be a major problem in our relationships and an underlying cause of codependency. Because as soon as one human being is conditioned into developing their feminine and avoiding their masculine, or developing their masculine and avoiding their feminine, you create a polarization within that person. That means that they're allowed to develop certain skills, but they also have to avoid developing other skills. And as a result of that, they're good at some things and unaware of other things. And then we get into a relationship with the expectations that the other person is going to do things for us and meet our needs, actually needs that we could meet within ourselves if those gender roles weren't there. So it's this expectation on other people based on gender that creates codependency. And this is an underlying block to deeper intimacy, to deeper, loving, caring, intimate, open, honest and vulnerable relationships.
What's the solution to that, Andrew?
One of the solutions, and of course there's no real black and white answer to this because every relationship is unique and individual to those people that are in it. But my sense is one of the first things that we all need to do is start to deconstruct some of the gender concepts that we have. You know, awareness is the key, willingness is the motivation. Without awareness, there can't be any kind of transformation. And so people need to realize that being a man or a woman is not genetic. You know, fashion changes and so does gender fashion. And once we do that, it can free us up to start to explore aspects of ourselves that we've avoided. And we can start to explore what our maximum potential is as a human being. Because at the moment, a lot of us aren't supported in our societies to explore our maximum potential. We're taught to, you know, at school to do what we're told, to fit into society, to say yes, even when we want to say no. We're not taught to develop these more mature qualities that we need to be fully functioning adults and to have fully functioning mature relationships. So by deconstructing our gender roles, we can then start to explore femininity and masculinity within ourselves. There's a spiritual teacher from India called Osho, and he talks about, or he has a saying which is something like, it's only when the feminine and masculine are united that a Buddha can be born. Now in our societies, we're not taught to integrate our feminine and masculine within self. We're taught to polarize and then to associate with a sex type. I don't know about you, but when I went to school, I was considered successful if I was very masculine. I played sports and fighting and games, and it was all very masculine, and you were successful. The boys that weren't very masculine weren't successful. Was that your experience?
Oh, very much so, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think Australia and Ireland are probably very similar in lots of ways. And the same for females. The more feminine they are, the more successful they're considered. And then, of course, if we want to maintain that success, we need to maintain this facade of cultivating the masculine or the feminine and avoiding the other one. But the reality is, inside every male is a feminine essence as well as a masculine. Inside every female is a masculine essence as much as a feminine essence. And I long to live in a society where we're all supported and encouraged and loved to develop our feminine and masculine. And what a society that would be. Because now some people listening may be thinking, what? We don't want to develop the masculine anymore. And
Ardmore Adventures offer the widest range of outdoor adventure activities in Munster. We have the activity for you or your group with adventures on both land and water. Kayaking, surfing, archery, hill walking, rock climbing, abseiling and stand-up paddleboarding are just some of the activities on offer. Only 15 minutes from Cork, we cater for individual or group bookings. Find us on Facebook or for a full list of adventure activities, check out ardmoreadventures.ie. Life's an adventure, so let's live it.
Welcome back to the Health Zone. Check out and like our Facebook page on www.facebook.com/The Health Zone Show to stay updated on all things health related. Well, that was a short clip from an interview I did with Tantric sex, relationship and orgasm coach and sexologist Andrew Burns. You can listen to the rest of the interview on our podcast on www.mixcloud.com/The Health Zone. Well, just to let you know about the winners for the Townlands Carnival taking place on this July the 10th near Macroom. The winners are Lucille Bon and Shane Crossan. Well done, guys, and enjoy that fantastic festival. Well, that's all for this week, folks. Tune in next week for more exciting happenings in the areas of health. Next week, we'll be talking about how to stop smoking and the many reasons and benefits to do. Until then, here's the one and only Nina with 99 Balloons. morning and welcome to another show of the Health Zone. I'm Mihal and I'll be with you for the next hour. Check out and like our Facebook page on www.facebook.com/The Health Zone Show. Well, this week we're talking all about sexual health and healthy relationships. We'll be talking with sex columnist Roe McDermott about what women wish men knew about sex and how you could add some more fun and spark into your relationship. We'll also be chatting with Polarity Therapist Fabio Moretta about why women experience sexual health problems and what they can do about them. Lastly, Tantric sex, relationship and orgasm coach and sexologist Andrew Barnes will be telling us how to create a more intimate and honest relationship with our partners and how to know if you're in a co-dependent relationship or not and what you can do about it. But before all of that, let's listen to the one and only James Brown with I Got You.
If you've an injury from sports, work or life in general, at Cork Sports Injury Clinic, we've a range of treatments to help relieve your pain. Not all injuries are related to sports, but the treatment for many of life's aches and pains are the same. Just some of our treatments include deep tissue massage, dry needling, spinal adjustment, cupping and ultrasounds. To find out how Cork Sports Injury Clinic can help you, contact us on 087 74 27 654 or check out our website at www.corksic.ie. Cork Sports Injury Clinic, providing quality treatment that will have you back in the game.
Welcome back to the Health Zone. Well, that was I Got You with James Brown. Check out and like our Facebook page on www.facebook.com/ facebook.com/The Health Zone Show to stay updated on all things health related. Well, on this week's show, we're chatting with Roe McDermott, who is a journalist and sex columnist for Hot Press and Dublin Inquirer. She's also a Fulbright awardee studying sexuality studies in San Francisco State University. She's telling us about how to have a more enjoyable sex, how to know if you're with the right partner, and also how to keep the spark alive in your relationship. So tell me, Ro, just going back there, regard to, I know we're talking about sexual health and healthy relationships. What is deemed as good sex, Ro?
Well, good sex is rather subjective for a lot of people because everyone has their own tips and tricks, which they seem to. But generally, for everybody, I think Dan Savage is an amazing sex columnist over in the States, and he's going to formula that I think is effective, and it's being GGG, which he